Travis Wayne Goodsell. I still remember as a kid, after the lesson in the Book of Mormon about the prophecy of the coming of Joseph Smith Jr. in 2 Nephi chapter 3. And upon hearing of that, I wanted to search the scriptures to see if I was also in the scriptures. And I remember looking at the Bible dictionary. Well, I don't think we had that back then. It wasn't until 81, which was my first year of seminary. And so, because of my age, I would have had to have learned it at the breakfast table when my parents tried to do a every morning Book of Mormon reading at breakfast before my dad went off to work and we went off to school. And so, interesting. But anyway, regardless of when and which house I was in Southern California or Michigan. Ooh, interesting. I remember looking in the index, searching alphabetically for Travis. Nah, not in there. No Goodsell either. And just woke up from a nap. I took a real beating this past week with the power outage on Tuesday and moving the boxes and the bed. They were heavy. And then on Thursday, doing the grocery shopping, carrying the heavy loads, bottled water, Mountain Dew, applesauce, which was not as heavy. And so, yeah, I was able to preserve my weights and sit up bench, and have been back into using those again to try to build up my strength to do the grocery shopping. But still, wow, it knocks me out. But when I learned that the Book of Mormon, and thus the Bible, was written in the learning of the Jews, there I am. It was hidden from me as a child, being told that it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That we were not the learning of the Jews, despite the Book of Mormon saying it's in the learning of the Jews. And so another testament of Jesus Christ? Seriously, President Kimball? After you come out with a 1981 revision, oops, gotta scrap all the printing. We gotta redo it with another testament of Jesus Christ the very next year. And so I have, the ones I have were my missionary ones. I got a new set specifically for my mission. And so they had the revision of another testament of Jesus Christ. But the seminary ones, as I was the first group of seminary students to go through with the new edition of the quad, they had to incorporate going through the footnotes. And as I've told you, it didn't really last long. There are certain footnotes that the church made sure got put in, so they're in the manuals. Other than that, no, it's not worth your time. You have to correct it, which is what I knew needed to be done as a young boy going through the footnotes through seminary. And so I was taught to annotate my scriptures. And so I darkened the light of the Word. That was a joke I made up as a kid. So, fun times. And so I see that after we do chapter 4 here, that Joseph Smith Sr. did designate chapters. We finally get to chapter 2 when we finish this video. And I was wondering if this is going to be short enough that I could combine it with the Latter-day Wedding Supper Feast of the Lamb at the Temple of Zion. But it looks like that'll have to be a different video. And so, another thing you might notice is that I'm bringing back some of my old favorite hit pictures that I've used numerous times throughout the years and the 3.1K plus videos on this channel to make new pictures. And so I have to go to the brass plates to transfer them to this computer that I'd purged it. I was retired. I am retired. But apparently there's still room left on the brass plates to continue to collect and record a history for the people, of the people, by the people, through the people, in the people. And so yes, the way I speak is supposed to be symbolic and not necessarily humorous. It's supposed to be something that Mormons are going to be inspired by and learn from. And nope. Jesus, you're evil, Satan. Get behind me, Korihor. It's all our gold. How did I do on the Lemuel impersonation from the cartoon version? This whiner. Such a whiner. But I did that video already. So this is when the brothers return, and Laman and Lemuel take credit for it. And so Laman writes it in his journal, which we found the records, and it was published into English, translated by the gift and power of a Mormon woman who was critical of the church, I think. I'm not sure. The Book of Laman. I've got her document. I was able to get a PDF of it. Or did I buy it? I bought it because it's not available in PDF because it's too new. So yeah, I have. Where did I put them? Oh, yeah, there. Musical boxes. It's in one of those boxes. Yep. Alrighty, so the manner in which Mormons treat me, I was going to do this for the Wedding Supper Feast video, which is next, but we'll do it here, and we'll do the other version of it that I've got planned for the wedding supper feast of the Lamb. Hang on to your hats, ladies. Because you notice these stories are getting to the promised land without marriage. Which, yes, the prophecies talk about the wives being corrupt, the wives staying behind, not left behind. Shh, kids, don't tell mommy we're leaving her as we're going to Zion. Nicolas Cage in the LDS version of Left Behind. I just want you to know, honey, I love you, and that this date rape drug is for your own good. Just remember that if you ever wake up. Just awful. Awful. No, women get to choose, not in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but out of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they get to choose, and Mormon women are choosing to stay behind and become pillars of salt of the Great Salt Lake. Not a coincidence. But just they don't realize that they are choosing to be rebellious against God. In choosing idol God statue Jesus than in their true Christ. And so the manner in which you treat me is exactly the manner you would have treated Joseph Smith had you lived in his day and time. Just like the Danites and the converts of the Danites. You would have replaced Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon with Christianity and Jesus, denouncing and denying who Joseph Smith was. Because you reject me. Because all of Scripture prophesies of the Christ in the learning of the Jews. And they come from the Egyptian records. That's what Senior is now telling us here. Because they get back, and they haven't looked at the brass plates yet, but you see that they've got traditions to offer thank offerings and burnt offerings. It's ingrained in the cultural traditions. Just like Mormons, they have cultural traditions and for strength of the youth standards and values not to drink Mountain Dew because it has caffeine. And I'm sure that somewhere in the Word of Wisdom, section 89, it's there somewhere. We just have to search harder to find it. Maybe that's the secret code that Travis is talking about, whatever he's talking about. Yeah. There is a big difference. But that's the thing. You need records. You need statutes. Laws. Because people get dumb without it. They do their own thing, and by doing their own thing, they forget that they're supposed to love other people. And the need for survival over all else tends to dominate. And crime and corruption and abuse and patriarchal authority tend to dominate. And they force the rest of us into a survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest is an abominable claim of a theory. It's false. There is no survival of the fittest. And we get into that in the Book of Mormon because they bring it up. You know, when bad people rule, they devolve the culture into animal instincts. And then you get psychologists abusing us by saying, oh, we're just like mice. We're just like dogs. We're just like other animals. We're just like rodents. Just wrong. And so just say, no! Planet of the Apes. So awesome. No! I will not be enslaved anymore. And, oh dear God, during my little nap I had that nightmare of a dream. It wasn't really a nightmare. I escaped. But yeah, I woke up and I was in a strange building that I've had before. They tend to use scenes and settings that I've dreamed of before in my dreams. They just change decorations and details, minor details. And often the people are different and so forth, and the same was with this one. And I was given a female roommate, and I thought, oh, okay. And so I'm getting my own place now. I'm getting a female roommate. I hope she's cool. I hope she likes me. And then I started walking around and exploring. And people were talking with me weird. And I began asking questions about my property and how to set things up, and they were not wanting to give me direct answers to the questions, and sure enough, I was in a prison. And I could never leave. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. Classic. And so yeah, then I had to fight my way out and break free. And then I think I woke up sometime after breaking free and was searching around trying to get back to where my original possessions were. So yeah, it was just a retelling of the past 15 years, 2008, 2023. So, yeah, 23. Ooh. No, 15. 15, because dear God, it's not been a wonderful life. It's not what I counted on by being found in prophecy. Definitely not. But that's the promise here in the Book of Mormon at the beginning, is that I will escape my captors, and I have. Prophecy fulfilled. But they will get judged and punished for what they did to me. We're still waiting for that one. And so the first part, we see that Laman and Lemuel are mama's boys. Nephi is a father's boy, daddy's boy. Because Sariah is given a whole big speaking role of complaining, falsely accusing Lehi of being a visionary man, and that he has therefore murdered her sons. And you see that same type of manner of speech from Laman and Lemuel throughout the Book of Mormon as well. And so this also is a prophecy. The first wife, she left me. And while she left me, he was 2 and she was 4, and you know they adore you. If you recall that song that I can't listen to anymore because of that line. You know, you don't recover from abusive trauma. Never. There's nobody that you can talk to. That psychologists will just make it worse, as they use it as a weapon against you to control you. The only way to move on is the way to get over a woman is to get under another one. It was supposed to, it's a movie or TV line, I think a movie line, where a woman is told the best way to get over a man is to get under another one. But yeah, that is the only therapy for a broken heart, is to get another person who won't betray your heart. And she did. She married me under false pretenses, extorted the marriage of me, going back to Rick's. And then she got together with a group of husband bashers and sought to destroy our marriage. From that point, we were in Lethbridge and I was going to school. She literally was doing everything in the book. How to lose your husband in not 5 days. She pulled out all of the stops to physically, mentally, spiritually abuse me. And she was upset that I knew so much about the scriptures. We played the Book of Mormon board game, trivia game, and I found that there was an error in the game, and that just pissed her and her mom off to no end, because that means father-in-law and I won. It had to do with who put the Book of Ether into, who abridged it and put it in. And it's Moroni. But the game said Mormon. Nope. And so, yeah, they somehow hated me for knowing that the board game was wrong. And so as she left me, she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I don't think I ever loved you." And then she just ripped out my heart, stuck it in the blender, and frappéed it, and said, my kids will not learn Hebrew." Because I had just deciphered Paleo Hebrew that February. The biggest discovery in the history of man. And my wife abandoned the marriage. So, she kidnapped the kids to become pillars of salt. And every Mormon woman since then have blamed me and said I had my chance. I will not get another. But fortunately, in 2015, I did get a second wife, but she could no longer have children. And she only lasted 2 years, as she couldn't handle it being the second coming, as was her belief, as it is all Mormon belief. The concept of learning of the Jews was too much for her to handle, and she literally had a mental meltdown and missed the solar eclipse that year. The big event that starts the latter days. And so for the latter days, I am literally alone. And because it's prophesied, and because she left me, that made me vulnerable to the abuse by the orders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Everybody conspired to destroy me. And fortunately, I'm here. But again, it's still in Utah. I'm recognizing that I'm getting rashes because of the high chlorine content in the water. God. And so, but yeah, I did pay off my electric bill for the last month. So now I can see what videos I can buy this year if Plan C doesn't happen. And we have to go to Plan D. It's a good thing they made a lot of different plans if they kept failing. And so yeah, I am a visionary man, prophecy fulfilled. I have dreams, I have revelation inspirations that I get. And then I follow the Book of Mormon, not just to say, oh yeah, I have a spiritual vision, and my spiritual witness says you're wrong and an apostate Korahar. No, I fulfill them. I produce the results. I physically manifest it. Because a spiritual witness means nothing to me. I don't know anything with a spiritual witness. And I have learned that once I produce the results, I learn far more than just having that original seed word that I had gotten in the beginning. And so throughout my life, I've received too much revelation that I can't handle. Literally, I would write things down on Post-it notes, and back in those days, before Post-it notes, paper. And I had stacks of paper piling up, and I could never keep up with any of it. The annotation in my scriptures, like I said, literally darkened the word. I needed more space and wanted to redesign the scriptures to have one column and then a blank column for notes. A column, blank column for notes. Because the amount of knowledge and information that I was getting as a result of simply continuing to produce the results, just like seed producing fruit that contains far more than one seed in each of the fruits, assuming that you're using the right analogy. There's some fruits that you only get one seed. And some vegetables, only one seed. But yeah, literally, numerous further revelations by producing the results. And they're alluding to this here as they're reading over the brass plates. And you see the pattern with the tree of life. Getting to the tree of life, partaking of the fruit, and finding out it's good. This is the same thing with the brass plates. They're reading over the brass plates. They're finding it's good. And I think they even say delicious. Let's see if I can find that again. Magically delicious. Desirable. And yeah, that desirable is used with the tree of life, which is Jewish Kabbalah tree of life, by the way. In case I hadn't told you in all these years for the learning of the Jews. And so they don't tell us here. They're in Egyptian. Mosiah chapter 1, verse 4. That if it weren't for Lehi knowing Egyptian, nobody would ever be able to know and understand the scriptures. Just like now. It's in English, but because of the learning of Christianity, nobody knows the prophecies that are in every single paragraph. It's just gone. And so they don't see it. They don't know how to decode it. And yeah, it all originates from the Egyptian documents, which also still needed to be deciphered despite Jean Champollion. He only figured out the learning of the Greeks' language of the Egyptians from the Rosetta Stone. Egyptologists still have not deciphered Egyptian. I have. Prophecy fulfilled. And it's sad that Mormons, by turning Joseph into a Christian, denounce him as a translator. They replace him and say, well, it's just revelation. He got inspiration and for some reason also needed to look at the rock in his hat. They're trying to reconcile, and by doing so, they're creating more absurdities about Joseph Smith, and it's just getting out of hand now. Where you have Nelson, who clearly at the pulpit of conference does not know Hebrew, as he says he has to refer to two Hebrew scholars, which we all know they're at BYU. If not for the footnotes, and he was just claiming Hebrew scholars because they were the ones who worked on the Hebrew and the scriptures, the Old Testament, during the footnoting back in the day. But regardless of the dumbass comment he made, he then goes on to do the April Saturday evening session of the 2020 General Conference to say, and he did it something like this. We don't know for sure, but we're told it's like this. Yeah, who told you? Oh, yeah, Martin Harris told you. Oh, God. And Mormons just say, we thank thee, O God, for a prophet. Oh, that's so awesome. Revelation at this conference. Oh, church is true, Jesus. No. Anti-Semites. Dumbass anti-Semites. All. and you just don't see that you're an anti-Semite. Literally. Well, Jesus is true. How am I an anti-Semite? I have friends that are Jews. Oh my God. Just so sad. So pathetic. And so, yeah, the brass plates also are the fulfillment of Ezekiel 37, the stick of Judah and the stick of Joseph. And this is important because it has to do with the latter days. And Ezekiel 37 talks about the valley of the kings of Egypt, but says it's of the house of Israel. That's a clue. And that the house of David comes from the Egyptian pharaohs, specifically the 18th dynasty of David Moses. And so here you see the 5 books of Moses. They are completely separate books. They were not put together until the Septuagint in 400 CE. Now, of course, the claim is that originally in 300, or no, it was 200? I think it was 200. Can't remember the date of the claim. But they claim that 72, thus Septuagint, 70, 72 separate Jewish scholars who knew Greek began the project of translating the original Hebrew text that we still don't have to this day into Greek. 72 for the 70 Septuagint. And they worked on it independently, not like the church did with their footnoting program, where it was a tag team effort, even though individuals worked on separate parts of one book so that everybody could participate. And of course, there are certain books like Isaiah, which are coveted for the best people. That was me. And because I was so fast, the supervisor said, "I'll just let you do it all." Thank you. But then red flag alerts. Wait a minute. We've got certain scriptures that we need to keep secret from Mormons. Travis is exposing these secrets. We need to silence him somehow. Well, we can't get rid of him. He's got the Jesus card from President Hinckley himself. How do we do this then? I know. We'll use Doctrine and Covenants, section 107, verse 24, and thus silence him. And they did. And so lots of stuff got rejected to be corrected and was left as is, wrong. And so knowing the history of the original documents and how they were composed is a big deal. And so the Septuagint never existed prior to 400 CE. The separate books, yes. The Dead Sea Scrolls, there were some Greek documents. We know that they wrote in Greek, but not together as a collective, despite the Jews giving us that precise prophecy. And so this is kind of important here because now they're talking about Genesis, an account of the creation of the world, and also of Adam and Eve. Not quite. Remember, it's an Egyptian. They're going off of the King James Version of the Bible's English version, which is a corruption from the original language, and the original language comes from the Egyptian documents, not the Masoretes. And so if you use Christian Jesus interpretation on this, you're going to get confused and think that the Bible is literal history still. And therefore, the Book of Mormon proves that the Bible is literal history because it's literal history too. The Bible is literal history because the Book of Mormon is literal history. And the Book of Mormon is literal history because the Bible is literal history because the Book of Mormon is literal history. And the Book of Mormon is literal. Oh my God! Stop! I see dumb people. And here we have the record of the Jews from the beginning. The Bible doesn't have that. It has the record of kings and the chronicles and the kings. Samuel is what you also know it as. But it's not the record of the Jews. There is no record of the Jews. Even Genesis, giving us a list of the patriarchal authority descent, but that's not the record of the Jews. There's a big difference. We're missing the record of the Jews. Or are we? It's in the Egyptian documents. But also says, hey, we have a record of Joseph. The genealogy of Joseph. Record of Joseph. And so this is an actual genealogy with the women, not the patriarchal leadership line. And so this is important also. And as I've told you previously and over the past years and in the 3,000.1 videos on this channel, that Joseph Smith Sr. is the one writing this book. And as he tells us in the beginning, it's all about him. He's the goodly parent of whom his sons, Joseph and Hiram, would be the Holy Grail. As Joseph Smith Sr. is the Holy Grail by default because of 9/11/1826. And he's just here alone in chapters 1 through 5, which is chapter 1. There's just so much that I've revealed for you guys by Joseph Smith Sr. I mean, Joseph Smith Sr. is a powerhouse. And it pisses me off to no end that that female critic wrote a book and said that he was a drunken bum. And that Lucy Mack was the glue that held the family together. That Joseph didn't have a religion. He was irreligious. And if it wasn't for Lucy, God, that is an evil hate book she made. She did not bother to do her research. She just trusted the learning of the Jews' literal history, and therefore burned Joseph Sr. But you just, with the understanding that this is Sr. writing this, because Martin Harris stole the 116 pages. You see Sr. as a far more valuable human being to mankind, not just saving America in 1826. As an American patriot hero. but to set up his sons to carry on, to fulfill the prophecies that he knew of. It's just awe-inspiring, and I'm starting to leak. It's just so wrong to replace him for who he is. It's so evil to replace another person from what they are. To replace the Jews is just abominable. Literally, that's the only word to fully encapsulate the evil of a person who replaces another. It just makes you dumb, and it makes you hate, and it makes you violent. You become a puppet weapon. And so it goes to Zedekiah, which again is 2017. This is the future prophecy here. These are the records of the history of the people that needs to be obtained by the Mormon who is to be the Messiah. The collection of the brass plates. And so it's not just of Mormons. It's not just of Scripture and the prophecies in them. It's showing the results of the prophecies being fulfilled. The fruit of the tree of life. That the iron rod is the scriptural prophecies. And by adhering to the interpretation and the learning of the Jews, you will get to the latter days and see the results. And that's what they are doing here with the brass plates. Setting it up for his tree of life dream. And yeah, again, the Exodus, led out of captivity out of the land of Egypt by the same God who had preserved them. Not a real history. Prophecy of the latter days. And so, yeah, Laban kept the records because he was a literal descendant. There's a reason for that. Laban is the name of Rachel and Leah's father, who forced Jacob to be a slave before he can marry the woman of his dreams, and still had to marry the older sister on top of it. He fully abused him, knowing his love for Rachel. And despite that, she died on the second son, which is sad. But not literal history. Prophecy. The latter-day Christ is to have 2 wives. Failed marriages. So, the prophecy, to finish this off. Lehi gets inspired after reading the plates of brass and says that the plates of brass will go throughout all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people. Oops! It's the latter days. So it's the millennium in Zion. That's the whole purpose for the collection of the history of the people, the prophecies and the fulfillments. is that those who make it to Zion will be educated correctly. No more Christian crap. And we can finally get back into scientific progress and development. But you get Christians tampering with it, and they say that it's morally irresponsible to create robots to do slave labor for humans. How are humans supposed to get paid? They're not supposed to have slavery. Dear God. And so, yeah, you can't have a monetary system of economy, as we'll get to when we get to the priestcraft discussion in 2nd Nephi. And so, yeah, we have an end of a chapter. As they don't use tent, though. That's why I was thinking we could include the marriage one. And yeah, and we'd have to go further back to the beginning where they get to the tent of the Father. Because here at the end, they summarize it. And so thus far, Nephi and his father had kept the commandments that the Lord had given them. Commandments were the revelations and the dreams and the visions. They weren't from the brass plates, weren't from the scriptures, because they didn't have them. That's what he's referring to, the commandments. And so that's what inspiration does. It tells you things that you can accomplish in the flesh. That's the example I just gave. I had a dream. You need to get the plates. They go and actually get the plates. Now, it's not a true story, but it's a prophecy. And it has been fulfilled. I have kept the commandments, not realizing that I was fulfilling prophecy till after I did it. And so Mormons are not searching these videos to find that they are desirable and of great worth unto them. And they will be left behind as pillars of salt whenever evil people do it. Whether it's plan C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. They'd have to do it on the weekend of the April conference, because the prophecy ends. That's it. On the 8th, that Monday. Dear God, don't go that long. But if they are listening, and I know they are, Russia at least is, they won't let me know that they're listening. They think they're being sneaky. So funny, Russians. But, yeah, and then the narcs to the church still have that guy. But Mormons, no. They just refuse to see that Jesus is blinders, withdrawing knowledge and intelligence from you. That you cannot see the prophecies with Jesus blinders. Wherefore it is wisdom in the Lord that we should carry them with us as we journeyed to Zion, the land of promise. He's talking about the latter days, in case you haven't caught on.